Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's class is all about revitalizing the body, playing with intermittent bursts of movement and then stillness to wake up our systems. The same way you refresh your PC screen when it's lagging, the same way I'd like you to allow your body a little bit of a reboot on the mat today. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, using props where appropriate, and feel comfortable to take a time out in child pose as and when you need it. You ready to play? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class standing more or less in the middle of the mat, facing towards the top end, with your feet maybe just a little bit wider than hip-width distance apart. Find a comfortable summer settee, tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly button in, find a focal point on the wall in front of you and float your hands into a soft T frame. You're going to give me half a rotation, side to side, trying to keep your eye on that focal point so that as you gently begin speeding up that half spin, you don't become disoriented on the mat. Keep giving me a soft bend and a pivot on the back leg as you come over the midline of the body and start drawing up softly from the inside of your inner thighs along the inseam of the leg, pulling up towards your pubis, and then from your pubis, draw a straight line as if you were pulling up a zip from your pubic bone towards your navel. Keep pulling the belly button softly into center. Let's do 3 more little half spin sets. As you complete the last one, drop the arms at your side, bringing the feet in just under hip-width distance apart and float your hands into prayer. Bring your prayer hands up quite high so that you can see your thumbnails and focus, bring all of your focus to those thumbnails. Find a comfortable root through the feet. Draw up from the inner thighs all the way towards the crown of your head. Then from this standing position in summer settee on the mat, you're going to drop down into a kneeling frame on the mat. You can either keep your toes tucked under for this one, or you can drop and relax the bridges of your feet to the floor. Play with it, see what works best. You're going to take a big breath in and you're going to float both hands into your lower back, giving me a supported camel, keeping your hips stacked softly over your knees. And then you're going to float back into a little side stretch. You're going to oscillate dynamically between the two, pausing for maybe a beat or 2 in each before flowing back through to the other one. Play with your breath pattern. Find an inhalation and exhalation stream that works for you. As you dip off the center line and come into the little side stretch, check that you're not dipping your bum towards your heels. So I want you to keep that nice inverted plank line through the body, giving me a nice stretch from the top of your thighs all the way along the lower belly area, pulling up to just below your breastbone. And as I said, toes either tucked under or relax the bridges of your feet to the floor. Whichever feels most comfortable for you today. I feel like I need a good little stretch into the arches of my feet today, so I'm going to use a little toe tuck under position. Let's do 5 more little flows. And on our last set, I'd like you to find a camel line and hold that camel line for me. Maybe supporting the lower back. If your back is nicely warmed up and you're up to it, you could even reach for both heels. Make sure that you restack your hip bones over your knees as you come into your camel line. Maybe just keeping that chin parallel to the floor, or you can arc and look up, depending on how the neck is feeling as you're playing on the mat today. Then gently release. Relax your feet if they were tucked under and find your way into a seated frame at the front of your mat with room to play behind you. Sit up nice and tall with your feet about hip-width distance apart in a comfortable Dandasana, staff pose. Drop the arms at your side and then think of drawing the hands back, lining up underneath your armpits as you bend the knees and push up into a little tabletop frame. Come back to your seat and then give me a small little forward fold Paschimottanasana. You're going to move dynamically between those three poses, from staff pose to your soft little forward fold, from your forward fold to your little inverted table. Use a breath pattern that works for you. Please don't hold the breath. Keep the breath flow. If you hold on to the breath, you prevent that beautiful supply of oxygen that feeds the muscles and the tissues of the body as you're playing on the mat. Maybe giving me a nice little shooting breath through the mouth. Make it nice and audible to help you synchronize your movement to your breath and maybe get a little bit deeper into each little forward fold. Systematically starting to relax through the lower back and maybe bringing your chest progressively closer to the top of your thighs as you play. Keep belly to spine the whole time, so keep the belly button softly pulled in towards the center line. Let's do 5 more sets, and then we're going to find our way onto the back in a supine position, and I'll give you 1 or 2 play options when we come to the back. So maybe using a seated roll down to find your way to the mat, sitting up nice and tall. Maybe before we roll down, let's just take a soft little forward fold and hold it, reaching over the feet if you can, maybe wrapping the hands around the back of your feet, or just keeping it really gentle if the feet are not accessible for you, but trying to get a nice lengthening and a release through the lower back as you play with the forward fold. You could even take a block and maybe place it on the floor in front of you. Find a stacked forearm position and just hang and chill out there. Peel up along the center line, sitting up nice and tall, floating out the hands in front of you, palms looking into the center line. Take a big breath in to prepare, and on the exhale, nod your chin to your chest and peel down towards the mat. As you connect to the mat, float the hands overhead and find a comfortable neutral spine position, allowing for a little bit of space between your lower back and the mat. Maybe just taking a quick little stretch here as you get to the mat. Oscillating side to side, stretching left fingertip to toe and right fingertip to toe, keeping the movement soft and dynamic, releasing all that tension from the back. And then softly bend the knees and connect the soles of the feet to the mat. You're going to take a big breath in to prepare. On the exhale, you're going to scoop to peel up, weight just off the shoulders, lower back imprinted, and then you're going to open up into a soft little frame on the mat, hovering the arms and the legs just off the mat if you can. Exhaling to peel up and inhaling to come back to a long hovering position on the mat. If this loads your lower back too much, maybe drop the soles of the feet to the mat and bring your head down to the mat if you need a little time out before scooping and coming back up. Wherever you're playing, whether you're using the bent leg alternative or whether you're working with an extended leg line, give me a nice scoop and hold, really feeling that work into the belly before you reconnect to the mat. Exhaling as you come up, drawing the limbs together, and inhaling as you draw back towards the mat. Let's do 4 more sets. Body should already feel nicely warmed up. As you complete your last one and come back towards the center line, give me half a roll up to come into a little boat hold, either bracing behind your thighs and holding, or floating the arms out in front with the weight just off your tailbone, inner thighs switched on, and pull up really strongly from your pelvic floor towards your belly button. From here, we're going to find our way into a 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. So gently sweep the legs underneath you, setting yourself up in 4-point kneeling. We're going to play with a little flow here. You're going to play between a little hovering knee position, just off the floor with your toes tucked under, then flow into the down dog. From your down dog, come into a plank line on the mat. Then drop to the knees, hovering just off the floor. Hit your down dog frame. Come back to your hovering knee position. and then extend out into plank. Pike your bum up to the ceiling. Drop and hover the knees just off the floor, then drag the weight forward over your wrists, finding your plank line. Pike the bum up to the ceiling, find your down dog. Hovering table, plank line up, down dog. I'm setting a moderate pace on the mat. You're more than welcome to speed it up or slow it down, depending on how your body's feeling. Taking a time out in child pose at any time, should you need it. Sync your movement to your breath. Let's do 3 more cycles. Then we'll all chill back in Balasana, child pose, and we'll take a little release into the neck. As you complete your last cycle, ending in plank, softly drop to the knees, relax the shins and the bridges of your feet into the mat, taking a modified up dog stretch here, pushing the mat strongly away with your hands before kicking back in child pose, allowing the big toes to float together along the center line. Allow the knees to softly splay out, arms in front of you, soft and extended palm down into the mat. Start gently pushing into the palms and sink your heels back as far towards, or rather sink your bum back as far towards your heels as you can. Then gently find your way into a stacked forearm position in child pose, resting your forehead on the back of your hands. Take a big inhale in for about a count of 5. And then on an exhale for about 10 counts, softly rotate your head to the left, coming to rest on the right side of your head, allowing all that tension to dissolve from the shoulders and the collarbone. Come back to the center for a count of 5. And then for an exhale for 10, softly take your head in the opposite direction. Peel back towards the center line, finding your way back into your 4-point kneeling frame on the mat. Make sure that you're giving me a long line through the neck, so don't drop the head. Long line through the neck and the spine, and start tracing a circular pattern with your body. Keeping your belly button softly pulled into center. Look for any areas or knots of tension in the body as you gently play. Change the direction of your circular trace. Keep your belly button firmly pulled into center, so don't allow your lower belly rolls to pucker over the top of your yoga pants. Keep your belly button firmly pulled in to center. Come to stillness along the midline of the body and come into a gentle extended child. Opening up the fingertips nice and wide and pushing into each digit as you sink the weight of your bum back towards your heels. Then bring it onto the tips of your fingers, pushing into the very top of your fingers before gently allowing the palms to collapse once more to the mat. Find your way back into your 4-point kneeling frame, but slide your knees back slightly so that you can lean forward into that modified up dog we were in just now. So you're resting on the knees and the heels of your hands. Now start tracing that big circular pattern from your modified up dog position and see how much release you can get. If you find that the knees feel particularly sensitive, maybe taking a hand towel and gently placing it under the knees for additional support. Change the direction of your circular trace, and as you're playing on the mat, keep your belly button firmly pulled in to center. You're going to give me one more, then we're going to chill out in child, or you can play with a little vinyasa if you prefer. If you're feeling the arms, give me a forearm stack and just rest your forehead on the back of your hands. If you want to work and keep it moving, from child pose, extend the arms out in front dragging your body weight forward into a plank. Chaturanga down, using knees or no knees. Bend the elbows, hug them in towards the ribs, hovering off the floor for a second before you drag the body weight forward over your wrists and the bridges of your feet, coming into a full up dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, before piking your bum up to the ceiling and holding a soft down dog frame on the mat. If you were in child pose, ease your way into down dog. Take a good stretch. Make sure that your hands are more or less shoulder width apart and the feet more or less hip width distance apart. Gently pulling your belly button up towards your spine, dropping the heels to the floor and getting a good stretch along the back chain of the legs. Then step up the legs one at a time or come up onto the fingertips, softly bending through the knees and taking a little bunny hop forward to land softly on the balls of your feet before extending and coming into a little forward fold. You can either keep it really gentle and stop about waist height, or you can take a block and you can lean into the block. If your back is nicely warmed up and you have the range of motion, try to lean into the palms if you can and take a full forward fold. Uttanasana, gently rocking the weight back and forth between the balls and the heels of your feet until you've found your balance on the mat, and then come to a resting spot somewhere between the balls and the heels so that you can feel both of your feet are fully engaged and you're drawing that energy up through the feet. Then on an inhale, come to a halfway lift, just gently having the fingertips connected to the mat. Inhaling for about 5 counts and then exhaling for 10 and dropping into the forward fold. If you'd like to use a modification, maybe just peeling up into table and then dropping your hands to your legs and playing between your hanging position and your supported tabletop. Just see how the back is feeling. Play where you're comfortable. Allow your movement and your breath to sink in a beautiful pattern of movement on the mat, and keep your belly button softly pulled into center the whole time that you play. From here, I'd like you to take a big step back with your left leg so that you're leading with the right leg. Wiggle your front foot forward and stop when you've got a beautiful alignment of your knee over your ankle so that you're not putting any tension onto that knee joint on the right. Hands are framing that lead leg on either side, fingertips or palms connected to the mat, whichever feels good for you. And gently start dragging the weight forwards and backwards, almost as if you want it to come onto the tips of your toes on the back foot, and then push the weight back into the heel as you gently rock back and forth. Either stay here or gently begin playing with your right arm and float it behind you and in front of you, almost tracing half a circular pattern on the right. Then change hands for me if you can. If the balance is feeling good, tracing that half a circular pattern on the other side. Gently opening up through the groin as you rock the body weight back and forth, feeling a nice little opening through those hip flexors and the groin. Then come to stillness. Step your lead leg back, finding your way into child pose. Big toes together, knees open nice and wide. Stay here or drag the weight forward, finding your little vinyasa flow and moving from the plank through a chaturanga, leading into an up dog, and then transitioning seamlessly into a down dog. If you were in child, find your way to down dog and pause here for a few breaths. Trying to drop the heels of your feet closer towards the floor, drawing energy up through the fingertips into the forearms. Step or hop to the front of your mat and come back into your forward fold, Uttanasana, with the feet softly stacked in parallel, just inside of hip width distance apart. Inhaling for 5 counts to come up into a halfway lift, and then exhaling for 10 to drop into the forward fold. Systematically trying to release the crown of your head closer and closer to the floor as you play. Find an audible breath pattern that works for you. And then from here, you're going to find your way into that lunge line, leading with the left leg in front this time. Take a big step back on the right leg, wiggle the left leg forward if you need to, and find your stack. Gently begin swaying the body weight back and forth, playing with that toe and the heel of the back foot, allowing that opening through the groin. If this feels good, start sweeping or arcing the left arm alongside the body, forwards in front of you and behind you, as if you were trying to tap the wall in front of you and behind you, and maybe tracking that movement with your eye, or keeping your gaze steady on the floor in front of you if you prefer. Then change sides. See how it affects your balance, if at all, when you start playing and lifting the other arm off the mat. From here, you're going to find your way back into child pose, stepping that lead leg back, big toes together along the center line, knees softly splayed out. Take a time out here, or play with the vinyasa by driving your weight forward through 4-point kneeling, finding a plank line, bending through the elbows, hovering off the floor, dragging the weight forward onto the palms and the bridges of your feet, and then piking your bum up and stopping and pausing in a down dog frame. Get a good little stretch here. Use it almost as you would child. If you were in child pose, find your way to this down dog frame, and we'll play with a little sequence on the right. Bend the right knee and kick up the right leg behind you, finding a three-legged dog. Hold the three-legged dog or find an arching dog by bending the right knee, pointing the toe up to the ceiling. Open up the right knee to the side, drop the foot to the left, finding an arching dog, and then sweep all the way through into a plank line to tap your right knee to the outside of your right elbow. Then play dynamically through those movements. From your three-legged dog, arch the dog and sweep, coming back into a knee to elbow tap, making the movement bleed seamlessly from one pose to the other so that it just seems like one graceful arcing and tapping movement on the mat. Let's do 2 more. On your next journey down, sweep that leg through. If the leg gets stuck on the mat, grab it, corral that sucker, and bring it forward, trying to stack the right leg on the inside of the right arm. Then softly open up your right arm into half a T-frame, and then sweep the arm in front of you so that you're tracing 3/4 of a circle with that top arm. Just make the movement soft and fluid, almost as if you were moving that arm, that sweeping arm, through a body of water. Keep your belly button softly pulled into center as you play. And then find your way back to your lunge line. Focus on your back leg. Drop the back leg to 90 and windmill your body open, finding a warrior 2 frame. We're going to change the warrior 2 frame. Keep your right leg bent and the back leg at 90 and float your palms in so that the palms are looking in the same orientation as your face. We're going to play with a little bit of rotational movement. Focus on the back foot. Tuck the back toe under, giving me half a pivot, and then come back to your start position and play with that movement dynamically. We're just going to do 5 little mini rotations. Bending and pivoting on the back leg before you come back to your start position. Last one. Find your way back to your warrior 2 line. Drop the arms at your sides and step up so that your feet are just inside of hip width distance apart. We're going to play with a modified warrior 3. So you're either just going to keep the arms long and lengthened alongside your hips as you float the left leg up behind you and come back to your start position. If this feels good and you can easily manage the 2, try to tap your left hand to the floor as the left leg floats up behind you, keeping the right arm soft and relaxed along your side, along your hip bone, along the right side of your body. If your balance is off, find a focal point on the wall in front of you and just run that eye down the point as you pivot up and down. Give me one more. And then come to a standing frame, floating your hands to prayer as you come into Hastasana and pierce the ceiling with the tips of your fingers. Then softly fold it forward, bending the knees as much as you need to step or hop back into your down dog frame. We're going to repeat that sequence on the other side. From your down dog frame, you're going to think of gently kicking up into a three-legged dog on the left. Then arch the dog by bending the left knee, pointing the toe up to the ceiling, and arching to the right. Then sweep the leg through, coming through a plank line and tucking the knee to the elbow of the left arm, and then arc and move through all three poses seamlessly, playing between your three-legged dog, your arching dog, and your knee to elbow plank, making it one seamless, fluid movement, keeping belly button to spine. We're going to do one more. And then from here, you're going to find your way into that lunge, stepping up to the inside of the left hand. And you're going to gently think of sweeping your left arm up into a soft T-frame, but throwing the arm back and almost tracing 3/4 of a circle with your arm, drawing the left arm across the right arm as you almost try to complete the trace of that circular flow. Big inhale as you sweep up, exhale as you sweep down. One more. Find your way back to your lunge line, Sursangustasana, and set up your warrior 2 line, Virabhadrasana 2. Drop your back leg to 90. Windmill your frame open. Find your position on the mat. Rotate the palms in. When you're ready, pivot on the back toe, keeping those palms nice and open. And just give me 5 mini half rotations through your warrior 2 line. Last one. You're going to step up to the top of your mat. Find your stance with your feet stacking in parallel underneath your hips. You're going to gently float the right leg behind you and come back to your tabletop position. Either keeping the arms soft at your side as you hinge forward, or tapping the right fingertips to the mat as you come into your modified warrior 3. Thinking of almost giving me a tabletop line through the back as you tap. So just give me a nice long line through the spine. Think length. Let's do 3 more. Then we'll find our way back into our modified mountain, playing with Hastasana. Step your feet just inside of hip width distance apart. Float your hands to pray. Take a big breath in, floating your hands overhead. As you come down along the center line, bend through the knees as much as you need to step or hop back and ease your way into child pose, taking a time out and staying here, or flowing through your vinyasa one last time. Easing your way into plank line, chaturanga down with control, flowing from your up dog into your gentle down dog. From here, we're going to play with a little dynamic crow, softening through your fingertips, softening the knees and taking a little hop up. Come onto the balls of your feet. So side view, let me show you a front view first. You're on the balls of your feet, allowing the heels to touch, and you've got your knees softly splayed out in an almost butterfly-like position, and you're going to place the hands more or less shoulder width apart on the mat in front of you, giving me a soft bend through the elbows and finding a resting spot on your tricep for your knees. We're going to rock through it dynamically, and then we're going to rock and hold if you've managed to make the connection to your core. So you're going to start with that soft bend, and you're going to zipper up on your inner thighs and your core, rock the weight forward, maybe bringing both toes off the mat for a second before coming back onto the haunches. You're going to do that roughly 5 times, and then on the 5th time, if you're comfortable with Bakasana, you're going to hold that crow for at least 10 seconds, floating the feet off the mat and resting the weight of your knees on your tricep area. So finding a resting spot somewhere between the elbow and the armpit. And it might be a high or a low position, whichever feels comfortable for you. And then play with that rocking motion 5 or 6 times, trying to find that inner thigh connection and that strong pull up from your pubis. Remember to look off the front of your mat using your nose and your chin as your counterbalance, and then holding Bakasana for at least 10 seconds if you can. And then from here, we'll find our way into a deep squat, Malasana. Drop the feet, take the feet a little bit wider this time. Splaying the feet as wide as you need to bring your hands to pray in front of your heart, using the elbows to push against the inside of your knees and opening up into a deep squat. It coming low to the floor is not an option for you. Just come up higher on the mat into an almost horse stance. Don't stick your butt out, so tilt your pelvis to 12 o'clock, maybe placing the hands gently on the inside of your knees and just push the knees softly open, trying to hold for at least 10 seconds. If you're all the way down in Malasana, push into the palms, actively use your elbows to open up through the groin. And then when you're ready, you're going to gently find your way into a seat so that we can roll down onto the elbows. Gently place the hands on the mat behind you, extend one leg at a time, coming into a seated frame with enough room to come down on the elbows behind you, bending one elbow at a time, and maybe tucking just the tips of your fingers underneath your bum if you need a little bit of support for your lower back. Just find your way gently to the elbows and check that you're not collapsing your frame into the mat. So push softly through the forearms and float your chest and your rib cage up towards the ceiling. Then float your legs into a little tabletop line with your knees stacking over your hips. Keep that bent lever through the knees, so keep that nice little 90-degree behind the knees as you double tap the toes to the floor and bring them back. Keep your chest up nice and high. If your tailbone is digging into the mat, maybe take your hand towel and gently add an additional layer of support just underneath the tailbone. I want you to feel that area south of your belly button begin to work as you contract and stretch. You're going to give me 2 more like this, and then we're going to find our way from here into Shavasana. Maybe come to a supine or a half supine butterfly position, bringing the soles of your feet together and allowing the knees to softly splay out. Wriggle your hands out from underneath your bum if they were there, and just take a gentle rock, side to side. Then ease your way onto the back, maybe bringing your bum a little bit closer towards your heels, easing your way onto the back. And then once you've found your way onto the back, I want you to extend the arms up towards the top corners of your mat and open up the feet really wide so that you're in a nice, almost look like a little starfish on the mat. Close your eyes and take your focus in. We're going to play with a little bit of guided relaxation. So I'd like you to just follow the sound of my voice and try to visualize the visual scene that I'm setting for you. Visualize yourself as a little bright red starfish. Wriggle your body around and visualize yourself settling your starfish body into the sand at the bottom of the ocean. Once you've comfortably wriggled and settled into the sand, visualize yourself taking a good look at the scenery around you. Start noticing the whiteness of that sand. Start noticing the beautiful, bright hues of color of the sea life around you in beautiful, bright yellows, reds, orange, green, blue, purple, colors so bright as the coral and the fish sway gently back and forth, moving with a beautiful, graceful fluidity. Everything down here seeming so peaceful and calm. Look up through the layers of water and notice that towards the surface of the ocean, things seem quite different. The wind has begun to pick up. Large waves are starting to sway back and forth, and sea vessels, little ships and boats are being thrown back and forth. A huge storm is brewing that seems quite nasty and violent. But here, at the bottom of the ocean where you are, everything seems almost quiet, tranquil, and peaceful. Try to apply this imagery to your daily life. When things in your day-to-day grind start becoming really hectic, things seem like they're flying at you, people wanting and demanding things of you that you're not quite ready or able to give right now. Instead of overreacting and stressing yourself out, take a mental step back. Find your little inner starfish. Find that sense of quiet, peaceful tranquility. And from that position of quiet tranquility, make a decision on how to reasonably move forward without making any impulse decisions. With that thought, quietly start bringing yourself back to the present. The eyes are still softly closed, no tension in your eyelids at all. Gently float your feet into a supine butterfly position with the soles of the feet softly together and the knees splayed out, allowing the weight of your knees to gently draw the legs softly towards the floor so that you're feeling a gentle opening through the groin. Flutter your eyelids softly open, but keep your eyes soft and unfocused. Then float your hands into a little lotus bloom by connecting the heel of your hands, your thumbs, and your pinkies with the rest of your fingertips softly open towards the sky. This mudra symbolizing your openness and your receptiveness. Remember, 221 is all about trying to keep yourself open and receptive to exciting new possibilities. Gently draw your knees together and drop the soles of your feet to the mat. Bend through the elbows, stacking one arm on top of the other, and try to reach around your shoulder blades and take a little hug, maybe drawing the knees in towards the chest as you take a little hug. Then dropping the soles of your feet to the mat and re-wrapping so that the opposite arm is on top this time as you try to reach as far back underneath you as you can, maybe bringing your shoulder blades temporarily off the mat as you find your grip position. Take a good little hug, hugging the knees in towards the chest. And then when you're ready, gently rolling over onto one side, preferably onto the right side of your body in a soft fetal position, using your bottom arm as an extended or a bent pillow. Just chill here for a couple of gentle breath cycles. And when you feel ready, in no particular rush at all, softly push up and ease your way into a comfortable seated position of your choice. Maybe a easy sit, sukhasana, with one leg in front of the other, or maybe coming into a half lotus line if you prefer, or even a full lotus line. Finding a comfortable seat on the mat, just dropping the hands softly to the backs of your knees and taking a couple of deep recovery breaths here, expanding the rib cage out towards the side of the room, and then allowing the ribs to gently fall in towards the center line on the exhale. Nice big deep exhalation and inhalation. As you expand the rib cage out, don't just think of moving laterally, think of moving up towards, or rather moving your chest out and your ribs behind you at the same time, so that you're really opening up that diaphragm in 4 dimensions. Then gently close off your practice by bringing the hands to prayer in front of the heart, closing your eyes, taking your focus inward for a minute, and thank yourself for making time to come and play with me today and for sharing your amazing energy. Namaste to you all. Have an amazing weekend. I hope that you have a great chill time, relaxing and maybe goofing off a little bit. I shall see you Monday to Friday, same place, same time. Have an amazing weekend. Till then, keep it light.